Good morning. Welcome to Decorah UCC. My name's Adam Campbell. I'm your worship leader here today. And we have a little special treat for you all today. I'm excited to let you know that I'm not giving the reflection today, but my dad is, who's here with us today. Go ahead and stand up. There he is. So my dad's come up from Branson, Missouri to be with us here this week, and he is a retired math professor, a math education professor, and in his retirement, he's gone on to get into photography, take adventures. He's written and produced 3 books, one about his adventure from the source of the Missouri River all the way to where it empties into the Mississippi. And then a second book is his collection of newspaper articles on teaching and pedagogy and education. And then his last one is a collection of translations of the Tao Te Ching in parallel so they can be written and you can compare and contrast the different translations. So, if you've ever found anything that I've ever said remotely interesting, which I hope is true, then you're in for a treat today with my dad's reflection. So, thanks for being here. And one quick announcement is we're tinkering with the bulletin format, as you've probably already noticed, just to state the obvious. But we have the worship guide in the one sheet with you, which kind of walks you through what we're going to be doing. And then there's a companion piece, more, I think, for newcomers, if you're a newcomer here today, which has the words of welcome and the Lord's Prayer and a welcome visitor sheet in there. So I'm going to invite you at the end of the service to give us any feedback that you have about this in the feedback box in the back. But in the meantime, just wanted to give you some orientation to what these new things were. So, in this moment, why don't we just take a breath together? And let's pause and take a moment of stillness to let our hearts and minds settle and to prepare ourselves for worship together today. And as we gather together today, we remind ourselves of the example of Jesus who welcomed everyone to his table without exception. God's doors are open to all, and we invite each and every one of you to the fellowship and worship of this congregation. Whether you're young or old or anywhere in between, whatever your history or background, whether your faith is an old friend or you're filled with doubts, questions, and confusions, whatever your sexual orientation, gender identity, and expression, whatever your color, culture, or nationality, whoever you're cheering for at the World Cup, you're all welcome here. We're privileged to have your presence. And so now let us join in worship and in celebration together.
And let us all rise in body or rise in spirit as we join together in singing our opening hymn. I'm always tickled when I choose hymn number 1. It always gives me just a little bit of joy in my heart whenever I see that. Hymn number 1, the first hymn in the hymnal. Why they chose this one as the first one, I don't know. We can reflect on that another time. But hymn number 1, immortal, invisible, God only wise.
Accessible,
The peace of God be amongst you all. I invite you to show signs of that peace amongst you now. And as you all find your seats, I invite the young and the youthful at heart and those who might want to just be a child once again for a few moments to come on up to the stairs with me and a special guest for the children's sermon. Come on up. I need you to come on up here too. Just stand up here with me. Come over here. Hello, folks. Now, I want you to look at this dashing, handsome, sophisticated gentleman right here to my left, okay? And then look at me. Do you notice any similarities between the two of us? Can you see anything? Would you say maybe we might look kind of like each other? A little?
A little bit.
Anything in particular you notice that looks similar amongst us? Maybe the big noses? No, nothing in particular?
Your eyes look the same color.
Our eyes look the same color. Well, I'd like to introduce you to my younger brother, Larry. Now, this is my dad, and one time, my dad took me to a fair when I was about 8 years old. I don't know if you're going to remember this, but they had a caricature, someone who drew pictures. Have you ever seen those people at the fair? You sit down, and they're going to really quickly draw your picture, and it looks really good. They did that for me, and when we got home, they hung that picture that the lady drew right next to my dad's picture when he was about 8, and it was scary. Yes. It was a little scary. I didn't want to say it, but it's okay if he says it. It was almost exactly the same. The picture that was drawn and the actual picture of my dad when he was my age then was almost exactly the same. Have you ever noticed that in a lot of ways we're a lot like our parents? You could almost say that I am made in the image of my dad. I'm not the same as my dad, but I'm very similar. And we don't just look the same, we act the same, we like a lot of the same things. It's kind of strange. We both like math, for instance. We both like adventures. We both like sports and going outdoors. We both like jokes, although his are corny dad jokes and mine are really smart, lively jokes. So a little different, but kind of the same. So I want to remind you that in the Bible, we're told that we, all of us, are made in the image and likeness of God, right? And Jesus likes to kind of talk about the mystery of God as his father or as a parent figure, just like here, right? So I have one question for you today, which is kind of a hard question, and the adults have a hard time with this question, but you all tend to be a lot smarter than the adults, so you might have some insight here, which is, what do you think it means to be made in the image and likeness of God? All of us. See, I'm kind of made in the image and likeness of this fellow right here. I apologize. That's okay. So do you have any insight at all? What do you think it could mean that all of us are made in the image and likeness of God?
That's a hard question.
That's a hard question. It's a hard question. I'm putting you on the spot a little bit. We're all humans. Yeah, so we're all humans. That's a great answer. So here's one way that I like to begin to answer this question that has no end and no ultimate answer, which is in the Bible it says God is love. It says God is love, right? And so whenever we are expressing love or feeling love or offering love and compassion to someone else, then we are in the presence of God. And whenever I want to get close to my dad, I can just give him a hug, right? And that feels good. And if we want to get close to God, if we want to feel close to God, we can just offer love to ourselves or to others or to anything in the world. Does that sound like a decent answer? Yeah. You kind of gave me a C on that answer, I guess. Okay, sure, why not? Okay, it works. Good. So, would you all pray with me now? Dear God, thank you for love. One of many ways to know you better. And thanks for parents, the great mystery that they are. Amen. Okay, have fun, guys. The kids now saunter off, not quite the sprint today, downstairs with Mari. Thank you, Mari, once again. Thanks, Dad, for putting up with that one. And now I invite you all to take a pause and to see what's going on in your universe today. Feels like there's a lot, isn't there? So take a breath, check in with your heart and your body, your mind, your being, your soul, all that's going on as you came in through those doors today and you gathered here. This is our chance to offer up our prayers in concert together so that they can be held together, so that we can know each other better and be supported. So if you're celebrating something, if you're concerned about something, if you're inspired by something, now is your chance to offer that to all of us. In a moment, you'll have the opportunity to raise your hand. I'll bring the mic to you, and with both brevity and fullness, we invite you to share your prayer. And after your prayer is shared, and I give a brief recap, we'll have a song response.
And our song response will be God of Mercy, Hold Us in Love. I'll sing it once through, and I'll invite you to sing it with me. God of mercy, hold us in love. God of mercy, hold us in love.
And now, friends, what shall we pray for today?
Prayers for my cousin who's been struggling on her fertility journey, and prayers of comfort for their family.
For Kristen's family and for those struggling with fertility issues.
A prayer of thanksgiving for the especially for the new people that have come into this congregation and what they have to offer. I don't know if any of you noticed that the railing got painted this week, and also the bench is being worked on, and just really appreciate Barbara and David, right? Yes. David was a part of that and has been willing to step forward and help us with some of those little things that need love and attention for this congregation. So praise be to new people and new energy.
To the talents of this congregation.
May we remember those who are not here today. May they know that we love them and care for them. And thank you for guests.
For those who couldn't be with us here today.
I'd like a prayer of thanks for the Norwegian soccer team. They've brought a lot of joy to the world, and we wish them well in their retirement.
For the Norwegian soccer team who almost pulled it off against England.
Yeah, just thinking about those in the world, particularly children, who don't have the basics: food, shelter, safety, and we know that God remembers them, but hopefully we will too and be generous.
For those without the basics.
Praying for the impossible, which by some strange way may be possible, but so often the astronauts tell us the world looks all one from up there and very fragile, no flags, no country borders. And praying for the world to have rulers who use love, compassion, and kindness as their main law.
For world peace and love.
I would appreciate your prayers tomorrow. I have an eye appointment that I've been waiting for 30 years.
Yeah, for your appointment tomorrow, and for those with eye issues.
Speaking of eyes, I think all of the older people in the congregation will identify with me and being thankful for technology and cataract surgery. So good luck tomorrow with your appointment.
For clear sight.
Ask for your prayers for two different friends, one of whom just found out they have cancer, and another who is going to have a baby. So it's a mystery indeed.
For those with illness and for new life.
I am thankful for the kids' lunch bunch. It has become such a wonderful community builder.
For Kids Lunch Club. Any other prayers today? Well, I invite you all into the spirit of prayer with me now then. O divine presence, we begin, as always, with gratitude for all that is afoot around us. Here, right in midsummer, with so much activity, so much happening in the community, so much new life coming around us. Life feels abundant, and we're grateful. And we also know that in the midst of that, illness arises, surgeries are happening. Many, many people who will never know or meet are suffering. And many that we do know are suffering, sometimes with and sometimes without our knowledge. And so we come humbly to this place today to offer our hearts and our minds and our bodies and our beings to be of service to life. May we be led by a higher wisdom. May we offer compassion and care for those around us who are in need. And may we take time to stop and savor the miracles afoot all around us. And may we also pause to feel that sense of buoyancy, of being held by a presence greater than we can know with our minds. We're grateful for life. We're humbled by its magnificence. And we give thanks for this community to share it with. We also take a moment to acknowledge that each and every person who came in here has prayers alive inside of them, joys and concerns that haven't been said aloud and maybe haven't even been formed into words or thoughts yet. And so we lift all of those up, all of the prayers alive inside of us right now. Giving gratitude, knowing that all of those and more are held. And now we say together the prayer Jesus taught us to speak many years ago, and whatever words are meaningful for you. Our God, who art in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation. Deliver us from evil. For yours is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
Now I invite everyone to join me in our invitation to listen. If you'd like the music for the invitation to listen, Lead Me, Lord, that can be found in on the edges of the pews here. So for those who would like a little bit of music for that, it's there for you.
The first reading is John 4:4-7. Now Jesus had to go through Samaria. So he came to a town in Samaria called Sychar, near the plot of ground Jacob had given to his son Joseph. Jacob's well was there, and Jesus, tired as he was from the journey, sat down by the well, and it was about noon. When the Samaritan woman came to draw water, Jesus said to her, "Will you give me a drink?" The second reading is from Tao Te Ching, verse 11. The spokes and the hub are the visual parts of a wheel. The wheel is useful because it spins about the invisible point at its center. Clay is the material from which a pot is made. The pot is useful because of the empty space inside the form. A house is made with walls, doors, and windows. The house becomes a home for people through the quality of life that is within. We practice with the visible and tangible, but it is the invisible and the intangible within us that brings us life.
Good morning. This is as strange for me as it is for you. I feel you are owed a tiny explanation. It's a spiritual day all around in our family. My wife and daughter are holding a women's spiritual retreat at our home in Branson. And they do that every year. And when they do not like a male presence around. And so they pay for me to take off during these summer retreats. And so I have come north to visit my son and Alicia. And I'm not sure which one of us is crazier, whether it was Adam to ask me to do this when he found out I was coming, or me to accept. But I finally did it because I have learned that these kind of things help me. Our church suffered the death of a pastor a few years ago, and we had to go through finding a new one, and we didn't get an interim pastor. We had people from the congregation and people from our regional office, and so I've done 3 or 4 of these with that, and I was asked in Branson to talk to a Unity Church a couple of times. We'll get there in a minute. The point of that is that has always helped me, I think, more than it's helped the congregations. So I thank you for your patience and your help on my spiritual journey. So I'm grateful for that, which, by the way, is more or less the topic for this morning, our spiritual journeys. I've been reflecting lately, a couple of decades, on my own spiritual journey, and it's taken an interesting course over the years. If you've gone into Adam's office, you see on the left-hand side as you go in and at the back of the wall a picture of our whole family's. For him, most of his life. For me, a lot of my life in Branson. He married our daughter and so on. Our spiritual mentor became a very special person for us. His name was Bob Hubbard. I don't have time to give you all of the great things about him, but pin Adam down sometime and he will tell you some marvelous things about Bob. But one of the things that he often said, and I'm paraphrasing, I think, was you don't decide to go on a spiritual journey. You more or less wake up and discover you're on one and have been. So I've always kind of thought that was the case, but more recently, again, probably the last decade or so, I've started hearing myself say to others that over the years I've become much less religious and much more spiritual. And I knew what I meant by that, and I thought it was original. But lately I've been hearing that more and more in a lot of places, so it's caused me to ask myself, what do I mean by that? How does that manifest into my consciousness and daily life? I'm assuming you can hear okay. I just about bit that off. So that, which is really what it's all about, spiritual journey. And recognizing that all of our spiritual journeys, I believe, are unique. I can only share some thoughts about mine. And if they help you, then fine. If they don't, then I thank you again for your patience. And I also have to admit that I am considerably older than my son, and whenever I watch your service on the web, I am amazed or perhaps disgusted at his ability to do these reflections with almost no notes. I've looked closely. I think he has a little card down here, but I can't tell for sure. But I do not have that ability any longer. My memory tells me I did at one point in time, but I'm not sure I do. I certainly don't now, so you'll forgive me if I'm occasionally glancing down at these 52 pages of notes for today. And I'm going to start with a story, and you probably heard it. It's the parable of the empty cup. There was a wise master or sage, take your pick, who lived in a region, take your pick. And people from all around would come to listen to him and benefit from his wisdom. And at one time, a scholar arrived to benefit from his wisdom and wanted to talk to him and wanted to learn from him. But as their discussion progressed, it became apparent, intentional or not, that the scholar was not as interested in listening as he was interested in talking and sharing his own view. And so the master hardly ever got in any words, and about halfway through he decided to invite them for tea. And when he poured tea for the scholar and the cup filled, he kept pouring. And the cup overflowed and it spilled out and so on, and the scholar was kind of aghast and said, stop, can't you tell the cup is overflowing? The cup is already full. And the master smiled and nodded and said, come back when your cup is empty. And the scholar sat there and smiled and left, all the wiser for that. And I guess I wonder how often, intentional or not, that we are like that scholar. How often are our minds and our lives, are they cluttered and distracted? How often are they? To the point that we can't recognize or process new perspective, experience new insights, new truths on the spiritual journey. Indeed, we typically say that more traditionally as hearing God or receiving or sensing his guidance. And we say that, but I'm not sure how much we believe it. And I think that hinders or can hinder our spiritual journey. So I guess the first way of phrasing my reflection/question for today is, how do we keep our metaphorical cups empty and our minds uncluttered to receive fresh tea from the master, new perspectives? And then how does that translate into our daily lives, our spiritual journeys? So that's an ongoing question for me, and so I'm not sure there is a general answer. But I'd like to kick around some ideas that I've been thinking about, and I hope they make sense. If not, Adam will have to spend a lot of time next week cleaning it up. But we could go a dozen directions with this, I know. But what I'd like to focus on is our minds and our ideas, and more specifically, our beliefs. It's an interesting question, what do you believe? I'm discovering it to be a sneaky question. Now, I'm not asking, what is your faith? UCC, Disciples of Christ, or Christian as opposed. I'm asking, what do you believe? I'm not asking you that. I've been asking me that, okay? I was not the kind of teacher that could put people on the spot. And I've discovered, for me, beliefs are interesting things. They're kind of mysterious. They come, they go. And there's 2 or 3 things I've noticed. I'm going to try to limit it to 2. Adam has only given me 40 minutes. No, I'm joking. Okay. The first, and I guess this is obvious, but I'm not sure I'd ever really thought about the fact until relatively recently, at my age. That could be a couple of decades. But everything we carry with us on our spiritual journey is a belief. For most of us, we don't really know that our beliefs are facts. Now, that may very well get into the area of faith, and we'll probably touch on that in a few minutes, unless I faint. I'm drawn to the quote by Nietzsche, "The most dangerous form of blindness is believing your perspective is the only reality." So that's the first thing you notice. The second thing, at least for me, is where do our beliefs come from? Well, maybe this is obvious too, but it seems to me that almost all, or the big bulk of our beliefs are inherited. They come with the package. They come with our parents' beliefs sometimes. Later, we also choose to adopt new ones, is another way I think. And then the mysterious ones, sometimes they are, you just discover that you have a belief you didn't realize you had. Or the other way around, you suddenly discover you've dropped a belief you didn't realize you had. But most of them are inherited. I don't know if any of you watched PBS, watched the series Grantchester. I don't know. There's any smiles? Then it just seemed interesting to me, utterly obvious but interesting. This is the last year, the last episode. I'm sorry, I'm going to try to go quickly for those of you that have no idea what Grantchester is about. But in the last series, the vicar in question had discovered his mother after 11 seasons of not knowing where he had come from, because he had been dropped off at a monastery, or I think. But it was just interesting to watch them, because the vicar is Hindu, and the mother is, of course, Hindu, and it suddenly became apparent to the mother that her son was no longer a Hindu. He had been dropped off at a Christian monastery. He was now a Christian vicar, and it was hard for her. And I can't think of anything more illustrative of the fact that we inherit so many of our beliefs. So I want to narrow the focus a little, as I've already done, to belief, but I want to broaden the metaphor a little. I really like the empty cup. I like that story. I like what was read out of the Tao Te Ching. I don't take a whole lot of time to reread it, about the cup being useful because of its emptiness, or the pot, and that the emptiness is what we work with. I like that, but I like to play with metaphors, and the better the metaphor, the more you can play with it. And dealing with an empty cup is hard for me to decide when we're throwing the baby out with the bath. It's a hard metaphor for me. So I'm going to introduce another metaphor, and I have to tell you another story. I don't know, it's been 3 or 4 or 5 years ago now. I was invited to give a reflection / sermon or whatever, but at our local Unity, because a couple of people there knew that I had written this book, actually a compilation of translations of the Tao Te Ching, and they asked me to compare the Tao Te Ching to their 5 basic beliefs of unity, which was fascinating and fun to do. But after they finished, a gal came up and was talking to me, and she said, yeah, I've ended up here in Unity because I'm a little bit more comfortable with their beliefs. She said, I've discovered that some of my beliefs had... I am hoping like heck that you can't hear that, but I am distracted. That phone is going off in my hearing aids. Can anyone else hear that? Well, thank goodness. But I am very distracted. Okay. Whew, it's over. Okay. Does anyone know where I was? Oh, anyway, she said, yeah, my beliefs have become kind of like shaggy sweaters. They're still functional. They fit. They will keep me warm. But she didn't really use the word fit. She actually said they don't fit as well anymore. I'm not willing to wear them out in public, type of thing. So I'd like for us to look at the metaphor from what I'm going to call a belief closet. Okay? And look at that. Helps me. It helps me with the idea of uncluttered instead of empty cup. Your belief closet can be cluttered or uncluttered, and it also helps with the bath water type thing. So I want to talk a little bit about the belief closet with the narrowed focus and the new metaphor. I guess I would reword my interest. How do we monitor our belief closets, so to speak? I'm getting some interesting looks. I used to get those when I taught math, too. And reword my interest. How do we maximize that to maximize the unclutteredness, to stay open to new insights, and to be aware of how that affects our spiritual journey? So again, I don't have any answers in general, but a couple of things that have been meaningful to me, and I'll be glad to share, and I'd be delighted to hear any ideas you have afterwards. But one, I think it's important to take a regular, honest, and I have that italicized in my notes, honest inventory of your belief closet. We should become aware of what's in there. And that's tricky because I don't think our belief closets are really well lit. It seems to be universal that there isn't good lighting in there. Beliefs are funny and fragile things. They disappear, they reappear, they get moved to shelves that are further away from your consciousness almost automatically. And we don't want so many shaggy sweaters in there that we don't have room for new functional clothes / ideas. And if you haven't checked your belief closet lately, you might be surprised. I confess that as I've started to do that, mine is a mess. I am wading around in there, discovering new things, discovering things that have disappeared. But it has to be honest. I think you have to do that. And then that honesty leads to the second thing that I'm working on, and that's accepting. Get the 2 A's there, awareness and accept. Once you become aware of the beliefs in your closet, then you have to accept what they are. I mean, everyone's spiritual journey is different, I believe. And I think that's okay. But it means our belief closets are different. And I think sometimes, I can only speak for myself, I think we're afraid to admit that our beliefs have changed. I mean, I suspect many of you share this experience with me. I grew up being told that you need to have faith. If you're not sure, you need to have faith. And that makes things scary. Sometimes you get like Alice in Wonderland and the Queen, who said, why, heck, I can believe 6 impossible things before breakfast. And that's the way it feels. And I've discovered I'm having a hard time myself admitting to myself that the view of Old Testament stories, I no longer view many of them as literal. And that's hard for me to say. I think, having watched enough of your services, that you're a group I can say that to. But I've been influenced a lot, and I suspect many of us have, by Joseph Campbell and his Power of Myth episodes with Bill Moyers. He would often say that, well, let me rephrase that. I'm not sure that the Old Testament stories are literal, because I think in some sense they are pointers, and they are more effective as pointers than they are as literal facts, some of them. And again, Joseph Campbell would call that a myth. I'm reluctant to use that term because it's so misunderstood, and so many people equate myth with fib or lie or untruth. But in my opinion, dropping a belief is not losing faith. Again, Joseph Campbell used to, and my wife, the only comment she made on some of my thoughts was that I'm supposed to make sure you know that we're not related to Joseph Campbell, much as we might like. So, at any rate, Joseph Campbell felt that unexamined, rigid beliefs, and I think both the adjectives rigid and unexamined are important, can often hinder our spiritual journey. And I think sometimes relaxing rigid beliefs allows for flexibilities and new ideas. I know for myself, the whole introduction to Joseph Campbell and some of his thoughts was an excellent introduction to me to expanding and looking at compiling translations of the Tao Te Ching. I find the Tao Te Ching to be an extremely spiritual, but definitely not religious book. And I have often said that the Tao Te Ching has brought me back to the words of Jesus. Not necessarily the doctrines of the church, but the words of Jesus. And I just think that's important, that we allow our journey to be flexible and our beliefs. And they have to fit each other. The journey has to fit the beliefs and vice versa. There's the story of the dentist who had a patient come in for the 3rd time with her dentures, saying these need to be filed down a little. They don't fit. And the dentist said, ma'am, if I do what you're asking me to, they're not going to fit in your mouth. She said, who's talking about fitting in your mouth? They won't fit in the jar by my bed. So I think the beliefs have to fit. So that's kind of some things I've been looking at on my own spiritual journey as it comes to beliefs. And so to get some closure and to wrap up, I think we tie it back to the spiritual journey. We'd be remiss if we didn't do that. I mean, why else would you check what your beliefs are at this time if they're not helping you smooth out your daily life and your spiritual journey? I believe that our spiritual journeys are part of our daily lives. In fact, I believe our daily lives are part of our spiritual journey. Now, I won't bore you with the math, but when we have in math 2 things that are subsets of each other, they're actually equal. So I'm thinking that our spiritual journey is our daily life and vice versa. And I'm helped along by that. Just recently, I have rediscovered Cahill Gibran, and I've been interested in his the prophet, and that's got many chapters, and there's the chapter on religion, and it starts, an old priest said, "Speak to us of religion." And he said, have I spoken of anything else? And later he says, your daily life is your temple and your religion. Whenever you enter it, take with you your all. And I think that includes our beliefs. That's how it ties back to the spiritual journey. And before I quit, I'm going to say one other thing. I wish I had more time to go into this. I leave it for Adam to follow up with if he wants. But I go back to Joseph Campbell, who believed that true spirituality wasn't so much about an intellectual belief as it was an experience. One time I remember in that series, I suspect many of you have watched it, Bill Moyers said to him, what about your beliefs? And Joseph Campbell said, I have experience. I don't have any need for beliefs. And that seemed to me at first to be really kind of flippant. What's the word I want? I don't know how that affected you, but you know, I think we miss the boat sometimes. More traditionally, we talk a lot about our relationship with God, but I don't think we carry it to the experience point of view. And because we don't, I think we miss out. Now, not many of us have had a mountaintop mystical experience. Joseph Campbell did. Bob Hubbard did. Picture in Adam's office. And others have had glimpses, come back from a death experience or whatever. And if you talk to them, you get the sense that they don't need faith either. They know with a capital K. And it changes their lives. And so one of my current beliefs that I've discovered is that that is available to us. I'm not talking about the mountaintop spiritual, mystical breakthrough. I'm talking about the day-to-day development, the developing of a connection, an intuition, if you call it. More traditionally, you might say guidance. We talk about listening for guidance, but we don't talk much about experiencing God or that guidance. And that's you probably wondered, but that's my connection to the John 4 verse that you heard. It's hard to think about that verse because we all think of Jesus as somewhat all-knowing. But as a human, he and his disciples were on their way. I forget the two towns. The disciples went on to get food, and Jesus went to Jacob's well and sat. And because he was there, when the woman at the well showed up, they had the experience they had. They had her going back and telling everyone she knew. I started to say I struggle with that, but I don't struggle with that. I struggle with how to define it. I don't think any of us are that open to the leading that put him there at that time. You know, I don't know if we think that was planned or whatever, but that's what I happen to believe is available that we don't pursue too much. And as I look at my belief closet, I think I agree with Joseph Campbell that dogmas particularly, but rigid beliefs, often keep us locked in and often act as barriers to honest-to-God connection. And I mean the honest-to-God literally. So I had in my original notes, need a good closing. It's still there. So I don't have a good closing, but I guess I would say as we head into each day of our spiritual life, or our daily journey, it helps me at least to be aware that our daily life is our spiritual journey, and that those lives can be much richer in terms of a relationship/experience with whatever name you choose than we give it credit for. And there are many places to start honing that awareness. That's partly what I'm myself trying to work on now, and I think one of the best ways is to start with the belief closet. So I thank you again for your patience, and hope to get to talk to some of you afterwards.
And I invite you all to rise in body or to rise in spirit with me, and we'll sing our response hymn that can be found in the New Century Hymnal at number 539, Won't You Let Me Be Your Servant?
You may be seated. And now we take a moment of prayerful reflection to let all of the words and the song that we've heard today sink in. How might we take all of ourselves into the temple of our life as we leave this place today? If one of the actions you'd like to take is to leave a donation to this church and its ministry, you can leave them at the plates at the back of the room at the end of the service. And now we invite you into a time of prayerful reflection. And now I invite you to join me in prayer. O divine presence, may all that we have heard today open our hearts and bring our awareness to your presence in our life and to the journey that we are already on with you in this temple of our lives. Amen. And now a few announcements. First, you're all invited and welcome to come downstairs right after this for fellowship. We'd love to spend some time all together in conversation and camaraderie. So please take some time to join us downstairs afterwards. Second, there's a feedback box on the table in the friendship room. It says feedback on it. I invite you to take your bulletin or worship guide or whatever we're calling it. If you have any notes or feedback or any ideas as we continue to experiment with this format, just write it right on there and just leave it in the feedback box so we can continue to make this something that works for all of us. And if you have any general feedback for things you're noticing or experiencing with any of us, the feedback box is the place to put it. Thank you so much. Any other announcements in this moment? Seeing none? Oh, there is one.
Just a reminder, I'll just say this on behalf of the council, but the second quarter report, I think, will be released and a link sent to everyone this week. And next Sunday after the worship service, members of council will be around to discuss that, answer questions and things of that sort.
The second quarterly report coming soon.
Also, a reminder that there's a calendar back there for July with open dates. If you feel so moved, please sign up for fellowship or for reading like Lorraine did today, or for all the different jobs up there. We really need your energy, just even for a small thing like being a greeter, which is cool because you either get to hug or smile everybody that comes in.
Sign-up sheet in the friendship room, now available if you'd like to join children's time or be an acolyte or be a greeter. Anything else? Okay, see you downstairs in a moment, but now let's sing each other out.
And I again invite you all to rise in body or to rise in spirit. And let us sing each other out with Michael Stillwater's One by One. The words are in our little guide there. I'll lead us through it. We'll split it into our round here as a 3-part round, and pick a part, any part. Enjoy yourselves. Have fun singing. One by one, everyone comes to remember we're healing the world one heart at a time.
And now may the love of God, the peace of Jesus, and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with us as we return to our daily journeys. Amen.